Everywhere you look, you'll see dispensaries that have THC, they have Delta 9, Delta 8, probably some other numbers I don't know. What's the difference exactly between all these marijuana products and how do they affect the body? That's what we're talking about today on Sarah Has Questions. I'm Sarah King, and I have a lot of questions. In this show, I get to ask WakeMed doctors any question I want, and bless their hearts, they have all the answers. Sarah Has Questions is a production of Mix 101.5 and Capital Broadcasting Company, and it's presented by WakeMed. We are talking about something you're going to see pretty much everywhere. Every town's got a dispensary at this point. We're talking about CBD and like products, and we have Chris Thompson, who is an addiction specialist with WakeMed. Welcome back.
Thank you.
It's your second show.
Yeah.
So CBD, you hear about it in two ways. You hear about it one, just at the dispensaries. But what exactly is CBD? Because you also hear it has medicinal properties. So what is it?
So CBD is a chemical compound that's found in the cannabis plant, right? And the cannabis plant has many different chemical structures that are found in it. So you have CBD. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about THC in a little bit, and some other products like that too. But it's typically derived here in North Carolina from a hemp plant. So it's a chemical that's found in a hemp plant that they're able to extract out and then use that. Like I said, some people use it for medicinal purposes. Sometimes people say it helps with anxiety and stress. People like it for sometimes sleep and to help with insomnia. Some use it for an appetite stimulant. And so there's a lot of different things. Chronic pain can sometimes...
That's what I was going to bring up,
Yeah, it can be used. So there's a lot of people that use CBD kind of for those medicinal purposes, but it's not without risk. And the data we have doesn't show real good evidence that it really helps improve some of those symptoms.
So does it cause a high? I mean, it is in the plant that is marijuana, aka the marijuana plant.
So CBD itself is not intoxicating, and it doesn't cause a euphoric feeling within the body.
Okay.
THC is the compound that is federally regulated, and that's what causes the high or the euphoric feeling in patients. Why
did you say it's not completely safe? What can happen if you just do the CBD? Yeah.
So CBD, it comes in different forms. We can get it in beverages, we can get it in tablets, we can get it in gummy bears and edibles, and it comes in a smokable form as well. Has a lot of side effects to it. Even though patients are taking it or people take it for anxiety, it can also increase anxiety. It can also cause some psychosis in patients. It can cause diarrhea and GI effects.
What do you mean by, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what do you mean by psychosis?
Yeah, psychosis, where if patients ingest CBD, it reacts in our mind. It doesn't cause that euphoric feeling, but it's still, we have cannabinoid receptors, in our brain and in our body that react differently when, cannabinoids are there. So part of that in our brain works on our memory and our cognition. And sometimes patients will have called a paradoxical reaction and have increased anxiety or increased paranoia. We'll talk a little bit later, I'm sure, about medical conditions that it can exacerbate, and it can actually cause a manic episode for patients that suffer from bipolar or have family history of bipolar. Same thing with schizophrenia; it can cause your first psychotic break.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So there's a lot of risks to taking even legal stuff over the counter. Just because it's legal doesn't mean that it's safe.
I mean, you could say the same for alcohol.
Yeah, exactly. And it has a lot of drug interactions with prescription meds.
Like what?
So blood thinners, anti-seizure medications.
Is any of this on the warning label?
Nope.
Really?
Yeah.
They feel like that should be just a given that would be on the boxes. Not that anyone's going to read them if they're doing this type of thing, but
nope, not at all. And it leads to a lot of hospitalizations, a lot of emergency room visits. Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We see more and more of it these days.
Well, I bet, considering it's legal and you can buy it anywhere.
Yep. Even though it's legal, there's no regulations to it.
So you could be getting something that's not CBD.
Yes, you can get things that aren't CBD that maybe not be on the labels. So, and you don't necessarily know the concentration or the strength of it when you buy it. They've done a lot of studies where they've taken packages and they claim it's 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams, and it's sometimes a lot less and sometimes a lot more.
Oh, interesting.
And then there's other chemical compounds that are in these products that you get based upon how they manufacture it or how they develop it.
Oh, interesting. And they don't have to label those because it's not regulated.
That's correct.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on real quick to THC.
Yeah.
And that is the fun stuff. That's the stuff
That's
that
right.
gives you the euphoria, and that's what everybody's going for. So what exactly is THC, and how does it differ from CBD?
Yeah. So it's not that different as a chemical structure, but when it's in the body, it has a much more euphoric feeling that it comes in. So we talked about the cannabis plant. We have hemp, which is, legally less than 0.3% THC. That's just a hybrid of the cannabis plant. And then you have like marijuana. And there's many different hybrids. There's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of different hybrid strains.
Is that why you get the names like
indica,
Maui, Wowie, and
correct,
things?
Exactly right. Yep. And they all have different percentages of these cannabinoids that we're talking about. And we're talking about the two major ones, CBD and THC, but there are, hundreds of different cannabinoids within a cannabis plant.
Okay.
So THC is the one that is the most psychoactive, and it is the one that's federally regulated.
In what way is it regulated?
So that is still considered a Category 1 or an illicit substance, according to the FDA. The Farm Bill in 2018 is what made hemp products that are less than 0.3% legal.
In North Carolina.
They took it off of that Category 1 class of medication.
I see.
Yeah.
So how does THC work? How does it make you feel so amazing?
So we have, we call them cannabis receptors in our body, cannabinoid receptors, right? They're in our brain, they're in our gut, they're in our periphery, they're in our cells that adjust for inflammation. That's where it helps with pain. So it interacts with those. And the ones in our brain are connected to our reward pathways and our mood. It has a direct impact on our serotonin levels and our dopamine and our norepi to make us feel good, to increase our mood, maybe to relax us, reduce anxiety, right? So that all happens, in our brain. And THC has the most activity in our brain to give you that euphoric feeling or that euphoric effect.
And so why is it bad? Because, I know that there are prescription drugs that do the same thing. So why is THC considered to be a bad substance?
Yeah. Because that, psychoactive reaction that happens, right? So one, we worry about, motor vehicles, driving, impairment from that euphoric feeling. But also we're studying the long-term effects, short-term and long-term medical effects that we have. So it does affect our cognition. It does affect our memory. And it has a lot of adverse, effects on our bodies that, may, lead to more health concerns
I see.
down the road.
Well, we're not going to get political, but the same could be said for alcohol and cigarettes.
Very true.
And yet they're legal. So I still don't understand why it's illegal given that those two are,
And that's why a lot of states are changing. So it's still federally regulated to be illegal, but states have changed a lot of their state laws for legal municipal use and also recreational use as well.
Yeah. Would you call it a gateway drug?
So patients that are looking for THC, looking for something that gives you that euphoric feeling, right? Many times look for other substances that may cause a similar effect, right? So there is a direct correlation of folks that like to alter their mind in some way and look for other substances that may do that. We can talk about mental illness and coping skills and how they use these substances, for those positive effects that we're talking about, but also, how they affect the negative effects. And we'll talk about addiction and do we get addicted to THC probably in a little bit.
Actually, that was my next question. So do you get addicted to THC?
So let me finish the gateway question.
Sure.
And then we'll kind
I'm
of do
so
that.
sorry.
No, that's good.
Yes.
No, because it's important to kind of think about this too. So there is a direct correlation, a physical correlation of can it lead to other substances? And the answer is likely yes. But I also think, too, especially here in North Carolina, if we're using marijuana or THC illegally, where are we getting that from? Typically, that comes from illicit sources. A lot of times those illicit sources have other things and not just marijuana. So you have exposure to those other substances. And like, hey, try this. Hey, why don't you do
I see
this?
what you're saying.
Then many times folks, not always bad, but they kind of hang out in different groups. And we talk about therapy. We talk about AA and NA. It's people, places, and things lead to addiction, are triggers for use. It's exposure to these substances. And if you're around them and you're exposed to them,
they feel normal.
Or the likelihood of you trying them are very high.
I see what you're saying.
So I think there is some physical components where it can be a gateway drug, especially if we like that euphoric feeling, but also on the psychosocial side of things, of the group you're around, the people you're with, having access to additional substances puts you at much higher risk of using other substances.
That makes sense.
In addition to the marijuana.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So now,
is it addictive?
Yeah.
There is some thought that it's chemically addictive. We do have a withdrawal period, so we have the intoxication period. We have the withdrawal period, where if you use for a long periods of time and then you stop using it, you have withdrawal effects of depressed mood, somnolence, increased agitation, a lot of the things.
What is somnolence?
Just sleepiness, just tired.
Got it. Okay.
Fatigue, like just throughout the day, even when you're not using. So you have these withdrawal symptoms from it. And really the way to kind of get or help self-medicate those withdrawals is to continue to use. So we go from like this sporadic use to more daily use to now using just to kind of feel normal. We talk all the time with people that suffer from substance use. Oh, I just keep using just to feel normal. But, it also leads to, we talked about coping skills and some other things too, so folks become dependent on these substances for sleep, to help reduce anxiety, whatever that may be. And then it kind of continues.
Yeah.
They say about 30% of people that use marijuana or THC do become addicted to it. And we also see that it affects our life. So whether that leads to problems at work or problems in the home, doing risk behaviors like driving, using lots of money, to buy these products that may interfere with other life expenses and needs. So there's a lot of different criteria that we look for if someone becomes addicted.
And are those criteria the definition of what do you call it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, addiction, right. So there's 11 kind of criteria, and if you have 0 to 1, you don't have an addiction. 2 to 3, you have a mild addiction. 4 to 5 is moderate, and then greater than 6. So 6 out of 11 questions, then you're considered having a severe addiction.
Oh, wow.
To any substance, but marijuana is one of them.
I know you can probably Google those 11.
You can.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to Delta 9, Delta 8, Delta
sure.
45.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch of numbers out
Correct,
there now.
When people refer to Delta 9, it is just really THC. It's Delta 9 THC.
Okay.
Right? So that's typically derived from a marijuana plant that comes right from the plant itself, and the ways that they can chemically extract.
Is that why it's called synthetic?
So yes, so there is ways to synthetically produce it as well.
Oh, okay.
Most of the Delta 9 THC that we find is actually from the marijuana plant.
Got it. Okay.
Now, Delta 8 is a little bit different. That does a little bit more synthetic.
Okay.
So sometimes it's referred to as Delta 8 THC because that can be extracted from a hemp plant. And then you're talking about some numbers and some other things. Again, the legal number is 0.3%, 0.3% THC in a hemp plant, no more than that.
Okay.
So they can actually extract even just that little bit from it. That's really hard. It's really expensive to do. So sometimes the THC that you see, Delta 8, is actually extracted from the hemp plant, but most of it is actually CBD that's chemically modified.
Oh.
Right? To become Delta 8 THC.
Oh,
it still has a slightly different structure than THC Delta 9.
Okay.
And it's not as potent. It doesn't have the same kind of euphoric effects, but it still has very similar effects.
I see.
Some people refer to it as Delta 8 light or THC light.
I see.
Okay. but most of it is derived from CBD, which is a cannabinoid that is abundant in a hemp plant. Again, in North Carolina, it has to be hemp-derived products.
Okay.
So that's how they get it. So they get the CBD out of the hemp plant, and then they chemically modify it to be a structure more similar to THC.
Talk about jumping through loopholes.
Yeah, there's a lot of loopholes. There's a lot of different language that's used on packaging that makes it interesting for that. And some of these chemically derived compounds, again, the process, they use a lot of chemicals. They don't always extract all those chemicals after the process is done, and they end up in the final product.
Well, that was going to be my next question, because a lot of people that I've heard have tried the Delta 8 in particular. They have like palpitations, their eyesight gets bad, like all this stuff. Why is that happening?
Yeah. It's still those cannabinoid receptors in our body that, are being stimulated, to cause all these feelings. Again, we have these internal endogenous cannabinoids, right, system. So it hijacks that system. And if we're not used to these substances, or these substances are very potent, again, in these packages, we really don't know how much THC or CBD is actually in them. So you can be getting quite a large dose and almost overdose even just on one on one gummy bear or one, joint, or however you're, exposed to the THC, not knowing how much you're actually putting in your body.
Speaking of gummies and drinks and smoking, like there are 3 different ways of ingestion, and I hear that each of those ways kind of affects you differently. Why is that?
Yeah, so a lot of different ways that it does it. So smoking, we have a very fast onset, right? Because it just goes right into our lungs and into our bloodstream and into our brain, right? So that happens relatively quickly. So we get that feeling of euphoria or that high very, very quickly. But, less substance, less, goes into your body, and you metabolize it out fairly quickly.
Okay.
Right? So short onset, short duration, right? Where edibles takes a longer onset, takes 30 minutes, an hour to kind of get through your stomach and get into your bloodstream and kind of have that euphoric kind of feeling that way. But it also can last much longer as well. Okay. Because typically when you eat it, you take higher concentrations, higher amount of milligrams, so it just stays in our body. It takes longer for our body to metabolize.
Does it matter if you eat it with anything, or does that not really seem to make a difference?
Too much, yeah. Okay. So once it kind of gets into your system, once it gets to your GI tract and it gets absorbed and it gets metabolized by your liver, right? So it does all those kind of, it's just a slower process to do that, and it just kind of hangs out a little bit longer.
Okay.
A lot of studies have kind of shown, we talk a lot about, and this is hard because we don't have really a test to see if someone's intoxicated, right? So we talk about driving under the influence, right? So we don't have a good test like we have a blood alcohol level for alcohol.
Right.
Like, if you're, in a situation where someone thinks that you may be intoxicated, there's no way to really tell. But, there's some other things in blood tests and stuff and urine analysis that we can look at. But we say if you inhale the THC, you should wait like 6 to 8 hours before doing any kind of risky behavior, driving or doing something that your coordination needs to be just to be spot on. But edibles, they say between 8 and 12 hours before operating any kind of.
Do you consider a drink an edible?
Yeah, because it's going through your GI tract.
Okay.
Yeah, so anything that goes through your stomach and has to go through that system and through the liver takes a little bit more time.
Okay. Yep. So how does THC affect the brain in the short term?
So again, that euphoric feeling, and it interacts with those, it increases our mood, really kind of activates the dopamine receptors and the serotonin receptors, and gives you that
you feel great.
Feeling. You feel great, unless you have some of those adverse reactions that we kind of
pre-existing condition.
Very good pre-existing condition, or maybe even a condition that's not known yet.
Oh yeah.
So again, our adolescents that are starting to use, and they say about 8% of 8th graders have tried or been exposed to
8%?
THC. 8% of 8th graders.
Wow.
Yep. So that's a pretty high number. So it starts, and we only start recording at age 12. So 12 and older are all the surveys that are done through the Institute for Drug Use. So 12 and older are all the data that we have.
Yeah.
But we're seeing larger amounts, about 8% in 8th grade, and it can go up to almost 15 to 20% of high schoolers have been exposed to THC or have tried it at least once.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And long-term effects, and because I Has there been a lot of study on the long-term effects of THC?
Yeah. So there's been a lot of studies for everything with THC. You know, sometimes positive, most of them are negative, right? But they are looking at these long-term studies. And again, memory impairment, long-term, cognition, increased kind of mental health concerns, leading to additional, depression, anxiety, sometimes, it makes bipolar disease worse and some other things as well. So there's some long-term effects, and there's probably some long-term effects that we don't even know about yet. In addition to getting exposed to all the different substances that are in these products, can have longer lasting effects as well.
You would think with the 60s we'd have the long-term studies done.
So it's interesting that you brought up that question too, because marijuana and pot in the 60s, so much different than today.
In what way?
So most of it is the concentration of THC. So back in maybe the 60s and 70s, you were talking maybe 3, maybe 5% THC within a marijuana plant. But again, all these hybrids that are out there, sometimes it's 17 to 20 or even higher percentages of THC.
That's like drinking a kombucha versus drinking like a big glass of wine.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Wow, as far as alcohol goes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the percentages are much different, these hybrid strands that are out there and some other things. So yeah, even that has kind of transformed, over the last few decades.
Oh, wow. Does THC affect the young mind, like a child's mind, in a different way than it does an adult mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So adolescent use under the age of 25, when our brain is still developing, has some profound effects. Again, when we get exposed to these substances, it modifies how our mood and how our reactions, take place. It leads us down a different, road for kind of coping and dealing with certain things. So that has a profound effect. We talked about addiction. The earlier we're exposed, the higher risk for addiction that happens. And we talked about the gateway, and we talked about other things that happen as well.
So when you said it's like coping, do you mean it becomes a crutch? Like people depend on it whenever things go wrong? They're like, I need to get high in order to deal with this.
That's right.
That's what you mean. Okay.
Yeah. So, therapy is really the gold standard for cannabis use disorder, right? There's no FDA-approved medications to treat cannabis use disorder, whether that's CBD or THC, but it's mostly therapy. And that therapy really revolves around coping mechanisms, trigger avoidance, and really kind of working on our overall mental health, whether that's through medical treatment and, medications that are prescribed by a provider, but also just talking and therapy to help those coping skills and to find new ways for self-care and for self-help is important.
This has been fascinating.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
I guess the takeaway from all that is any substance that gives you that euphoric feeling, even if it's legal, you really need to approach it with caution. Thanks again to Dr. Thompson. So fascinating. And if you have any questions about that, you can always go to WakeMed.org and get more information there. And as far as our podcast is concerned, if you enjoy it, please tell some people. We'd love to get some fresh listeners and fresh ideas. If you have an idea for a topic to talk about on Sarah Has Questions, go to our Instagram page, Sarah Has Questions. I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.